which I planned should be again in darkness by landing craft. Simultaneously, 45 Commando would seize the Ajax Bay complex and then get up onto the high ground to the west of it, while 3 Para cleared the settlement and then got up again onto the high ground overlooking the settlement.
This is the route taken by the diversionary force, descending the slopes of Mount Harriet in a southeasterly direction and engaging a strongly held series of enemy positions here, in this area of Gorse.
Phase 3 was the first time that we started using helicopters and wouldn't start until first light, and then using helicopters and landing craft, I would land the batteries.
By identifying exactly where the Argentines were hiding these helicopters at night, they were able to call in an airstrike about 2 days before the main landings and totally destroyed the ability of the Argentines.
B Company had got to within 1,000 metres of their objective, the Barker House ruin.
Being surprised by the direction and weight of the enemy fire, there was for a period of time some confusion. Initially, members of 2 Platoon and Captain Watson, my FOO, got involved in a brave little action to clear the immediate trenches on the edge of the gully. In the meantime, a number of men caught out in the open gradually began to winkle their way up into the gully. It quickly became clear that there were a number of enemy trenches close to us, perhaps within 200 metres. I then began to attempt, by pushing 2 platoons through the top of the gully, a flanking attack. This failed because when the leading element of 2 platoon got onto the top, they were pinned down and forced back by some very heavy machine gun and sniper fire from much more distant trenches than we realised were there at the time. By now the light was up, and whilst the group machine guns were dealing with the furthest trenches, groups of 2 and 3 soldiers were attempting to force their way forward to the nearest trenches, perhaps 100 metres away. After about an hour and a half, Colonel Jones came up to join me. By now the ammunition was beginning to worry me as a factor. We'd used a great deal of mortar ammunition and had called for a Harrier strike, which had been cancelled because of the fog at sea.
When they came under sniper and heavy machine gun fire from a strong enemy position to the south. Short of ammunition and too far from the enemy to return effective fire, they remained pinned down under mortar and artillery bombardment for the next 2 hours.
From that point, Corporal Abels was able to put a 66mm into one of the nearest trenches, there being only 5 or 6 left of the 22 originally fighting against us, who were still operating. At that stage, white flags began to appear. I urged caution on the company, lest only the nearest trenches may be surrendering and fire could still come from the others. We eventually urged them not only to lift their white flags, but to come out. At that point, we took the surrender and began to deal with the wounded.